Oh man, coming up next, I sit down with one of my favorite singers ever and one of the most celebrated singer-writers of the past 50 years. And he's going to tell us stories of many of his biggest hits. First of all, this singer and his partner dominated the 80s with the most hits of the decade from anybody. But the number one hit that set it all up for him happened in the 70s, and it was a doozy. It had a swear word in it, and it riled up radio pretty good. In fact, it became the first number one hit to have bleeps in it. We also talk about several of his hits that were inspirations for Van Halen and Michael Jackson's two biggest hits, biggest hit for each of them, as well as his new record. Get ready for a conversation with one of the greats. Coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you've ever felt sorry for Nels Olson being married to that witch Harriet Olson on Little House on the Prairie, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now to be a part of a community dedicated to the timeless music of the rock era. Click the bell, hit the red button, the big red button. I'm sorry, but she was the first Karen. So I'm excited to bring you another episode from our series Revelations, where featured artists go deep on their greatest songs and their greatest albums. Methodical interviews on these songs with the artists that you just won't find anywhere else. And today is truly a vital episode in this series. I had the distinct honor of chatting with one of my favorite voices ever. A man who wrote or co-wrote and sang on the most hits of the 80s. Talking about Mr. Daryl Hall. Today he gives us the inside scoop on their first hit, Rich Girl, which by today's standards had a minor profanity with the word bitch in it. But that didn't stop radio stations and censors from not playing it or taking the word out. Money, you can rely on the old man's money. It's a bitch, girl. Daryl tells us all about that. He also tells us about the two hit songs that he and John Oates had in the early 80s that two other legends borrowed from very heavily. In fact, Michael Jackson and Van Halen both told Daryl as much to his face. Eddie even wanted Daryl to head up the band when David Lee Roth left Van Halen. Daryl Van Halen. Daryl tells me his thoughts on that, and we get the story on the song that became a million-selling single without ever charting, and the details of his incredible new album, D. You gotta hear this. I'm excited to share this interview. Let's get into it.
Say money won't get you too far, get you too far.
This old boyfriend of Sarah Allen's, because I was living with Sarah Allen at the time, came to the house, and he was a rich kid. You know, I mean, he was richer than us, that's for sure. And he was like crazed. I don't know how to describe it. I think he took too much acid or something. I don't know. But anyway, he was acting pretty strange at the house, at the apartment. And he left fairly early. And I sat down at the piano and I started turn my piano on. And I started playing the song. And, you know, he's a rich guy and he's gone too far because you know it don't matter anyway.
You're a rich girl and you're gone too far because you know it don't matter anyway.
You know, and that's how it started. And then I said, well, rich guy doesn't sound right. That's stupid, you know. And I changed it to rich girl. Simple as that.
You're a rich girl and you're gone too far because you know it don't matter anyway.
And it has a swear word, and I know that stations at the time censored it. Some of them played it like backwards or bleeped it out, and I did some research on this before this interview to try to find out, but I think it's the first time that a number one hit had a word bleeped. I can't find anything before it.
You're absolutely right. It was really strange, man. I never even thought about it, you know. It's a bitch girl. That means nothing. That's so stupid. But yeah, a lot of people wouldn't play the record. And actually, a couple stations, they wouldn't even play it after we switched it to what they did things to it. They turned it around and made it bridge and urch and all that kind of stuff. And it really, like, you know, offended people. Ooh, you know, it seems so innocent and silly now.
I know. It would be an afterthought today for sure. These are my dad's records that he handed down to me. And I want to talk about Voices. It came out in 1980. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize this was a make or break album for you at the time, or at least that's what Neil Kiernan said.
Oates and I were frustrated with with working with producers that I felt, me personally, because most of the songs are mine. I felt he wasn't. They weren't being arranged properly, and I was being directed, being people were making me use studio musicians as opposed to my band. I felt like I wasn't in control, and so we just decided, let's just make this record on our own and produce it, and take the songs, play it with our band, and be real about it. And that was the transition. That didn't make or break it anything, but it certainly made it right. It made it the way we wanted it to be. And I think things were a lot easier after that as far as the creative process.
You were right. You're right on the money. But it took about a year to percolate. First hit went top 30, second, number 12. But Kiss on My List, huge. Third single, it hit number one of the biggest songs of that year. You wrote that with Sarah Allen's little sister, Jana. And tell me about that. Great song.
She was living in LA at the time, and she was only 20 years old. And she came up with that. She came up with the chorus, because your kiss, your kiss. And I just wrote the verse around it. And we wrote the lyrics together. And that was pretty good for the first time, and it came out great. But here's the weird thing is I sort of wrote it with her in mind. She wanted to be an artist, a solo artist. And so we recorded it just on a little 4-track. We were doing it as a demo. And I had that a little thing called a roll-in compu rhythm, which is this box, rhythm box that had like 3 beats on it, and I put it on rock and roll 1, boom, dick, dick, boom, dick, and it had this weird thing. You turn it and went boom, 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 dick, dick, boom, dick, dick, boom, and we used that as the whole basis of this demo we were making. And I played it for people, and they said, "Well, that's great." I said, "Okay, we'll cut it for real." He said, "No, you're not going to cut that again. That's unbelievable the way it is." Yeah. So that was just the demo.
The demo was the record. That's so cool.
Yeah, man.
Also, a lot of people think it's a love song, but it's really not, right?
No, it's not. It's kind of cynical. It's a very cynical song.
Tell me about Eddie Van Halen. He said that he borrowed a little bit from that, right?
He told me that the song "Jump," he completely. He said "Kiss on My List" made him write "Jump." That was the whole idea. And yeah, that was cool. I mean, I love that song "Jump." That's one of my favorite Van Halen songs. He actually, a little known fact, after David Lee Roth, he kind of left the band, and Eddie asked if I wanted to join in Van Halen.
Yeah, I'd heard that.
I don't know if he was kidding or not.
It would have been cool to hear one record. I wonder what that would have sounded like.
Looking back on it, I wish I had done one thing, or just done something with it. It would have been great.
Song, even.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I know he was a huge fan of your voice. Great misheard lyrics of the 80s, people thinking "Kiss on My Lips." You Make My Dreams. Song was a hit in 1981, but 40-something years later, it's really become your biggest hit, if not one of your biggest. It's close to 2 billion streams, sold 1 million copies in the UK without charting. That's another thing that's never happened,
Yeah.
How did it come? I know that you were starting to play that riff on piano.
Well, that's literally what happened. I was sitting at my piano, and I just went, I just started doing that. And then, and I couldn't think of what to sing over it. And I started going, "You Make My Dreams." And I thought, that's kind of a cliche. And then I wrote, Sarah Allen and I wrote the words, and they were rather high blown words, you know, but then it came back to "You Make My Dreams," so it kind of balanced it out lyrically. It was direct and it said what it meant to say, so it worked. It worked in every way, and I don't know. I think that's a pretty cool song.
Oh,
I
absolutely. And
still like playing it.
well, it's such a positive song, such a great vibe. And that vocal, I mean, you had to know after you're done recording it that that was going to be a massive hit. You had to know.
No, I don't. I never know anything, man. Everything is a surprise. I just do it. And some songs I thought were going to be gigantic hits and nobody cared. And some songs like "You Make My Dreams," where I just wrote it, or "Kiss My List," where you just demoed it and it became a hit. You just never know.
The Wedding Singer and 500 Days of Summer and Ready Player One, those kinds of pop culture moments that you just can't plan, they just explode it into the universe all over again.
With that gigantic video in the middle of that movie,
I know.
and it really affected people. I mean, I was really surprised. People were standing up and dancing in the movie theaters and stuff. I mean, it seems a little quaint now, but it was a big deal. And it really revived that song and just completely turned people's perceptions around.
Yeah, became a massive hit all over again.
Yeah.
Olivia Newton-John's Physical knocked Private Eyes out of #1, and then you guys knocked her out of #1 after 10 weeks there with I Can't Go For That, No Can Do. I tell you what, I Can't Go For That is, for my money, one of the greatest songs of all time. Just one of those songs, killer opening line. I mean, it's so important to have a great killer line a lot of times with a song, and you guys nailed it with this one. Tell me about that song.
After hours, I was sitting at, I think it might have been the Private Eye session, or it was one of those sessions. And I was sitting at this little chord organ that was like that big. And I started playing boom, ba that, doom, 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 doom. I just was doing it. And I started doing that, and I played the other hand. You know, I was basically just doing it all on this chord organ. And I turned on my trusty compy rhythm with Rock and Roll One, boom, dick, dick, boom, dick, you know, and played along with that. And I wound up with, I said, turn the tape on, man, because they were all packing up. Everybody was packing their guitars up and everything. And I recorded right then and there. I recorded me playing it along with the compy rhythm, and that was pretty much the song. And Oates was there, and I said, "Will you play this?" Dun, 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 dun. So he said, "Okay," and he went over and he played that, and then we added that to the song. And then I started singing gibberish, you know, but I started doing that. And then later I turned it into the lyrics you heard. So, yeah, there it is, man. It was pretty homemade.
So cool. And it's kind of a veiled relationship song. It's really about your relationship with the music industry and its manipulations, right?
That's what sort of spurred me on to write the lyric. Yeah, it was a frustration song.
Yeah. Well, Charlie the Chant, that sax solo, one of the best of the 80s for sure.
Yeah. Charlie, man, Charlie's the bomb. He's the greatest. Now I forgot. Yeah, the next day we brought Charlie in and said, "Play, just play something," and that's what he played. The two songs that I cannot be on stage and not play are Sarah Smile and No Can Do. They're the two songs that are it's sort of demanded. I can drop everything else, but those two have to be played. People get nuts if I don't play them.
Sarah can go for just repeating the same old lines.
Well, that ending vocal too that you did on that song where you're just vibing along and going off, that's just classic Daryl vocals.
I just open my mouth, man. It's that's what I do. I don't think it through.
Yeah, well, that's the best way to do it. But only song of 1982 to hit #1 on the pop charts on the Hot 100, but also #1 on the Hot R&B charts.
Yeah, which is always means something to me because I got my start in the world of soul radio and soul music.
I love the story about MJ telling you that he lifted a little bit for Billie Jean. Tell me about that.
Well, yeah, we were doing the We Are the World, and I was in the, I don't know, I was standing there by the side, just in between things, and everybody was talking to everybody else, and Michael said, "I hope you don't mind." He says, "I hope you don't mind. I stole No Can Do to write Billie Jean." I said, "Well, I don't mind at all, #1, and #2, it doesn't sound anything like No Can Do, so cool, man, go for it."
It made him want to dance too.
Yeah, I think he was just inspired by it. He was too good to copy something, he had more brains than that. But, I think that's what it was. That's what he was trying to say was the inspiration,
Yeah, which is such a compliment. Simply Red, I thought it was pretty cool what he did there. He kind of created a whole new song off of that. What'd you think about Sunrise?
I thought that was good. I liked it. It was that was a strange period when people were mashing up songs together. I did it. I did it with Marvin Gaye's song on the Soul Alone album. It's an unusual thing to do, but it works if you do it right. Yeah.
Say No Go.
I mean that was one of the early proto rap songs that used No Can Do. Yeah.
Well, the new album, D, I love this album because it is so different than anything you've ever done, and such a great different. It's such a beacon of fresh air. Rainbow Over the Graveyard is actually my favorite song from that. I think the lyrics are so cool. I really dig that song. Tell me about that song.
Well, the album is very conceptual. It's sort of it takes the listener or whatever, it takes me on a journey through things that are dark and bad times and all that. And Rainbow Over the Graveyard is sort of a symbol of coming out of bad times and saying, here it is, man. You can rise above things. It's the phoenix rising,
Rainbow over the graveyard.
And it is inspired by a place. I mean, there's a particular graveyard on the island that Dave and I both live on in the Bahamas, and the sun hits it a certain way. And I wrote that phrase down one time, and when I was we were going through ideas with Dave, I said, he looked at that one. He goes, "What's that?" I said, "Rainbow Over the Graveyard." He says, "Oh, let's write a song about that." And then there you go. That's how it was born.
And I'm feeling alive.
Very cool. Yeah, I knew it had to be very personal because the lyrics definitely paint the picture of coming out of the hard times, and I think it's a song for today for sure. We need that hope,
I'm living through some bad times. I know I'm not alone.
It's very contemporary. I mean, this album was just written through all this stuff that's going on, and I find a lot of these songs I feel are very applicable to what's happening to all of us right now.
By that graveyard, and I'm feeling the light.
Well, Too Much Information is very much a song in that vein.
Yeah. I think that came out of reality. There's too much information. I think I just shouted it with Dave. You know, we were doing stuff, and I literally went, too much information. Too much information running through my mind, breaking me. And he goes, okay, keep going. And that's how that song was written. It was, we were talking about something where they're literally, we would like, stop, there's too much information. I don't want to hear that. There's a lot of people walking around blind. Woo, woo. I mean, we could all relate to that. Let me be myself.
Well, Not the Way I Thought It Was is also, I think, one of the most interesting songs on the record.
We wanted to create a kind of a darkish kind of a song that opens up. It actually has a lot of similarities to Say It Isn't So in that respect. It kind of goes along in a tunnel, and then it blasts out at the end. I really like that song.
Yeah, it's a great one. Make sure to pick up Daryl Hall's new album, D Below. It is so good. Every song is just distinct and different. As great an solo album as he's ever put out. Link to it below. Click on it and go check it out. Get it on vinyl. That's what you got to do. This is just part 1 of our interview. Make sure to look out for volume 2 coming soon. Leave us a comment about Daryl Hall and about these incredible songs, some of the greatest songs, the standards of the 70s and 80s, songs that will last for thousands of years. What's your favorite Daryl Hall song? What do you think about his new album? Let's have a great discussion. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe below. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.